Morning, students. First of all, I'm going to discuss about your Power System 1 syllabus. I'm going to share this document. This is your syllabus, Power System 1. So, in this syllabus, you can see you have total 4 modules. In module 1, you mainly cover the generation part. In the module 2, you have to cover the mechanical design and electrical design of the transmission system. Okay, and the third module, again we have to discuss about, we have to learn about your transmission line. And in the module 4, we have to study the distribution system. So total syllabus, it is divided into 4 modules, module 1, 2, 3 and 4. So in these 4 modules, will cover the generation part, transmission part and distribution part. So next, I'm going to start our first chapter. Now here in the syllabus, here you can see the highlighted portion, the yellow portion. I will cover this part only, and rest of the part it will be covered by assessment. So now in the next part, I am going to share our topic. First topic. Can you see this? Okay. So first of all, I will start over a transmission line. This is your lecture number 1. Now, first of all, you have to know the structure of the power system. In power system, total power system, electrical power system is divided into 3 parts. Okay. So first of all, we have the generation part. The generation portion, you have to know how to generate electricity by the help of steam power plant, hydel power plant, or any other type of power plant. So in generation part, will generate electricity. In the transmission part, we have to transmit that electricity to the distributor. We have to transmit the energy from generating plant to distribution plant. Okay, so this is the second part, transmission, and the last one is called the distribution. The distribution part, we give the supply to the customer. We supply the electricity to the customer. So total electrical power system is divided into generation, transmission, and distribution. Next, the transmission part. The transmission part can be divided into 2 categories: primary transmission and the secondary transmission. But in some cases, we consider only one transmission line, not primary and secondary separately. We just consider only a transmission, a single transmission line. But for big cases, for big transmission line, we divide the transmission into primary and secondary. So in the next part, distribution also divided into primary distribution and secondary distribution. Next, I am going to discuss about the basic block diagram of the power system. So first of all, as you know, first you have to generate the electricity in power plant. This may be a hydel power plant, steam power plant, or any other type of sources. So any other type of sources or energy, any other type of energy is converted to electrical energy, that is done in the generating. Most of the cases we consider steam power plant. So in steam power plant, in the steam power plant, uh, we give steam input to the turbine. So due to the steam flow in the turbine, turbine will rotate faster. Okay, turbine blade will rotate faster, and this turbine and the rotor of the alternator, they are mounted on the same shaft. So when turbine rotates, shaft rotates. Similarly, rotor of the synchronous generator or alternator rotates within a uniform magnetic field. So in that case, due to the laws of electromagnetic induction, we get the induced EMF. So So the structure now, this is the shape of the turbine. Now suppose this is the shape of the turbine. Now turbine and the rotor, turbine and the generator portion, they are mounted on same shaft. So this is the rotor, okay, and here you have some coil like this. So when turbine rotates, when this turbine rotates, shaft will rotate, shaft will rotate, and rotor of the generator also rotates. Rotors of the generator also rotates. Now how this turbine will rotate? You can see we have a nozzle. So from here we keep the steam flow. So steam flow will come to this path to the turbine and give the mechanical energy to the turbine blade. For this, turbine blade will rotate. Similarly, shaft will rotate and rotor of the generator also rotate within this magnetic field, this field coil. Okay. So in this case, when according to the laws of electromagnetic induction, some EMF will induce. And can you tell me why? Okay, I'm going to clear it. So now, next you can see here we have a generator. Okay. Now we get the electricity or induced EMF from the according to the laws of electromagnetic induction. Now we get 6.6 kV or 11 kV, 33 kV. So these are the generating voltage. Now you can see this generated voltage is always a multiple of 11. Okay. Now can you see why it is 11? Because in alternator, in case of alternator, why it is called alternator? Because this synchronous generator, from the synchronous generator we get the alternating wave, that is a sine wave. Therefore it is called a alternator. Okay, so if we calculate the form factor of a sine wave, it will be 1.11. Okay, so from alternator we always get some voltage which will be the multiple of 11. It may be 11 kV, 33 kV, 6.6 kV, like this. Okay, therefore we are getting this type of voltage. So in generating power plant we get this voltage. In the next part, this generated voltage, we step up the generated voltage. One minute. So in the next part we step up the generated voltage by the help of a step up transformer. Why you have to step up this voltage? Because you have to reduce the transmission loss, or you can say that I square R loss or copper loss in the transmission line. Okay, to reduce the transmission losses, you have to increase the voltage and reduce the current in the transmission line. Therefore, we increase the voltage by the help of a step-up transformer. Generally, step-up transformer is used in generating power plant. Most of the transformer are the step-down transformer. A step-up transformer is generally used in case of sending and substation or generating station. So after step up the voltage, you have to transmit the power by the help of primary transmission. Okay, by the help of this primary transmission. And when receiving substation, that is a step down transformer, here 220 kV, it is step down to 33 kV. Okay, so in the after primary transmission, we receive the voltage in the main receiving substation. Now this main receiving substation is also called MRSS, that is main receiving substation. Okay. After receiving this, it will step down the voltage to 33 kV as shown in the figure. Then it will go for the secondary transmission. In the secondary transmission, after the secondary transmission, another transformer is used which it will be a step down transformer, and we step down the voltage 33 kV to 11 kV or 6.6 kV. Okay, so after secondary transmission, distribution part will be started. Now, from secondary transmission system, few customer, like big customers, they take electricity and distribute the power to their own company, own customer. Okay, after secondary transmission, so just like Reliance, Reliance or any other big companies. So big companies takes the power after secondary transmission. They can take, they cannot take. Okay, both are possible. So after secondary transmission line, the primary distribution started. So in the primary distribution, after the primary distribution, we have a change distribution substation where you have to step down the voltage from 11 kV to 400 volt. That is a three-phase system. It must be a three-phase system. So after primary distribution, secondary distribution started, and we get the power. The other customer for get the power for domestic purposes, or we can use the power for our industrial purposes. Okay, so this is the total diagram, total block diagram of power system. Okay, so after this block diagram, next we are going to discuss about overhead transmission line. Now, total transmission line, in the generating part, it will be covered by SS madam. Now I am starting this overhead transmission line first. This transmission line, it can be taken overhead line or underground also. So first of all, we are going to discuss about overhead transmission line. Overhead transmission line, in the overhead transmission line, we have two design. First one is called electrical design, and the second one is mechanical design. Now in electrical design, we are going to cover different transmission line parameters first, and then different transmission line design like short transmission, medium transmission, and long transmission. Okay, so in electrical design, it is covered by me, and the mechanical design, in the mechanical design, we mainly cover SAG, mechanical SAG. It will be covered by SS madam. So I am studying our first chapter, that is called transmission line parameters. Okay, so that is electrical design. So before starting this topic, first of all, you have to know what are the basic parameters of the transmission line. Generally, in an electrical circuit, there are different types of parameters like resistance, capacitance, inductance. Okay, so conductance. They can be connected either in series or parallel. But in transmission line, we have this kind of parameters. Depending on the connection, this transmission line parameters can be categorized or classified into two parameters: series parameter and shunt parameter. Now, series parameters are divided into two categories. First one is called line resistance and line inductance. So, line resistance and line inductance, they are taken in the series path of the transmission line. Okay, so they are called series parameter. And the shunt parameter, we consider line capacitance and line conductance. So, line capacitance and line conductance, they are taken in the shunt path. In other electrical circuit, all four can be used either series or in shunt. But in case of transmission line specifically, you have to use series parameter, you have to use resistance, inductance in series, capacitance, conductance in shunt. So next, this is the transmission line model. So in this figure, you can see inductance and resistance, they are taken in series path, and capacitance and conductance, they are connected in shunt path. So always remember that L and R are series parameter, C and G, they are shunt parameter. So the line impedance, it mainly depends on resistance and inductance. This is the transmission line model. So line impedance Z, it is equals to R plus J omega L. Okay. And in the shunt path, line admittance, it is consists of G plus J omega C. This is called the shunt admittance. Now here you can see Vs and VR. Vs stands for sending end voltage, VR stands for receiving end voltage. Okay, Vs is the supply side, VR is the receiver side. Okay, so in this transmission line model, we have series line impedance R plus j omega L, that is represented by Z, and in the shunt path we have the admittance Y equals to G plus j omega L. Now here for lossless transmission line, we reduce the losses, any kind of losses, transmission losses, leakage current. Okay, so what you have to do for lossless transmission line, R resistance is very small in compared to XL, that is equals to omega L. So inductive reactance is much higher than the line resistance, and almost R is taken equals to 0. Actually, in the transmission line, we have the transmission losses mainly consist of copper losses, that is I square R loss. Okay, so if you can reduce the resistance, you can reduce the transmission loss. So for lossless transmission line, resistance it is taken equals to 0. And here also, we should not have any kind of leakage current in the shunt path. We should not have any kind of leakage current in the shunt path. So, the next part you can see G, that is conductance, must be very small to avoid any kind of leakage. Now you can ask that G is called conductance, but conductance in normal cases, conductance is the reciprocal of resistance, that is G equals to 1 by R. But here you can see this G, it is not in the line series path. Okay, it is connected in shunt path. So any current or any conductance in the shunt path will be treated as a leakage current. Any current in the shunt direction, it is treated as a leakage current, and we always try to reduce the leakage current. So if we consider a water pipeline, in a water pipeline, water always try to flow in the axial direction. Let me show you. Suppose this is a pipe. This is a pipe. Now this direction, this is called the axial direction. This is the direction of water flow. So, or that particular water which we needed in our domestic application. If we have any kind of puncture or hole in the pipe, then what will happen? It makes some leakage in the radial direction. It makes some leakage in the radial direction. So we always try to reduce any kind of leakage. Similarly, in case of a conductor, line current or the useful current always run in the axial path. This is your line current IL. Okay, and any kind of leakage current, they always flow in the radial direction. They will try to flow in the shunt path. They will try to flow in the shunt path, and this is not your useful current. We have to reduce any kind of leakage always. Okay, so we always take conductance G equals to 0. This conductance G equals to 0. It means that no leakage in the shunt path. And there's a capacitance C. This C is basically the capacitance between line and the ground, transmission line and the ground. This is the capacitance. So so uh, after this, we can say that for lossless transmission line, R must be equals to 0 and conductance G is equals to 0 to avoid any kind of leakage in the shunt path. Okay, so for lossless transmission line, G is taken equals to 0. So finally, what you have in the transmission line parameters, resistance R becomes 0, conductance, shunt conductance G becomes 0. So finally, you have only this portion. Finally, we have to concentrate only these two part, yellow portion, that is inductance and capacitance. Okay, so we are mainly concentrating our study on these two parameter, inductance and capacitance, in transmission line parameters chapter. Okay, now I think you can see this. So I'm starting this topic, line inductance. First, you have to study how to calculate line inductance of different types of transmission line or different types of conductors. So what are the different cases? First, inductance calculation or inductance for solid state conductor. I'm going to discuss about this solid state conductor. Next, single phase line, three phase line with symmetrical spacing, that is balanced three phase system. Three phase line with asymmetrical spacing, that is unbalanced system. Transpose three phase line, this is again some asymmetrical line, but they are transposed transmission line. I'll discuss it in detail. Stranded or composite conductor, and the last one is called the bundle conductor. So you have to know how to calculate inductance for this different types of conductor or different types of transmission line. Now today we are going to first discuss about the most simple and most basic structure, that is inductance of solid state conductor. So first, as you know, when suppose we have a conductor like this. Okay, so this is the conductor. So some current I is flowing through this conductor, a solid conductor. So when alternating current I flows to a conductor, they will produce some magnetic field. And if we apply Thumb's rule, this is the direction of current, then what will be the direction of flux, magnetic flux? This is like this. So it will get some magnetic flux like this. Okay. So from Ampere's law, we know that if we have the direction, this is the direction of current, and this arrow, this will be the direction of magnetic field. This is the direction of magnetic field. Okay, so when any current flows through a conductor which is AC in nature, it will produce some magnetic field. High valued of alternating current. So here it is written how valued of alternating current while flowing through a conductor set up a magnetic flux of high strength with alternating nature. So high valued alternating flux makes an linkages with the other adjacent conductors or parallel conductors. So we may have a single conductor, or we may have different types of conductors side by side or in parallel. So the magnetic field created by one conductor may cut the other conductors. Okay. So in that case, what will be the behavior? So flux linkages in conductor happens internally and externally. So in a single conductor, we get two types of inductance. One inductance, it is inside the conductor. Another inductance, it is outside the conductor. We are going to discuss about both inductance. So now the term which is very important, that is called flux linkages. Now this term inductance is closely related with this flux linkages denoted by lambda. Suppose we have n number of turns is linked with the flux phi due to current I. Then can you tell me what will be the total MMF? that is N into I. Okay, that is N into I, total MMF. And what is inductance? Inductance is total flux linkages divided by current. Now, N is the number of turns, phi is the flux due to current I, and this is current I divided by current I. So this is your definition of inductance. But in this expression, you can see this N, we consider N is equals to 1. For transmission line, N is taken equals to 1. Why? Because in transmission line, we have only one conductor. Okay, or you can say we have a turn only in we have the turn only one side. So let me draw you a picture. Suppose this is a turn. This is a turn. This is our conductor 1. So here we are using a single turn, and here number 1, it is actually this conductor we are taking. This is a solid state conductor. And the other return conductor, suppose we can't show, it is in a figure. So you can imagine that the second return conductor, it is placed at infinite distance. Okay, so you can remove it. So we can erase it. So in that case, we have a single state conductor 1, and the other conductor, it is situated at infinite distance. So it will not affect the operation of a state conductor. So we are going to discuss about only a single state conductor. Okay, clear? Now, so for this derivation, our number of turns N equals to 1. We are taking N equals to 1 always for transmission line, because we are having a single conductor. The next slide. See, inductance of solid conductor is divided into two categories, as already told you. That is internal inductance and external inductance. But today we are going to discuss about only the internal inductance. So this is a conductor having length L, and here this big circle with yellow ring circle, this is your cross section of the conductor. Now we are taking some conductor having radius R, and which will carry current I. So consider a state conductor having radius R which carry current I. X, small x, this is any distance inside the cross section of the conductor. Okay, so actually this x, what will be the range of x? It is greater than 0, and less than R. So it is always taken inside the conductor. Okay. Next, according to Ampere's law, MMF around a closed path is equal to the net current enclosed by the path. So you know it from the Ampere's law, and it is denoted how it is denoted. That is MMF equals to surface integral of N dot dl. That is equals to I. That is always equals to I. Okay. This is your equation 1. Here, what is H? H is the magnetic field intensity. Small l, this is your distance along the path, that is the length of the conductor, and I is the current through the conductor. Now consider magnetic field intensity Hx at any distance x from the center. Now this x, it is a variable distance inside the cross section of the conductor. Okay, so x is always less than R. Now at distance x, the magnetic field intensity is taken Hx. Okay, now consider this is because of current Ix at distance x from the center. Total current passing through the conductor is I. Okay, total current passing through the conductor is I. But if we consider only 0 to x distance or radius x distance, then this inner part, inner circle, it will not carry the same amount of current. Basically, this is the fraction of the total current. Okay, so from Ampere's law, now we can write it, that is HDL integration HDL into I. From this expression, we can write Hx, that is at distance x, magnetic field intensity at distance x, dot 2 pi x. Okay, that is the periphery 2 pi x, that is the total periphery of the inner circle, 2 pi x into Ix. So this is the relation. So magnetic field intensity Hx, this is also a fraction of the total magnetic field intensity, and Ix is the current, fractional current, which is the fraction of the total current high. Okay, so from this expression, Hx can be written equals to Ix divided by 2 pi x. This is equation 2. Let the current density is uniform over entire cross section of the conductor. Suppose it is, we are considering it, this is not actually practically possible, but we are consider that this current is evenly distributed throughout the cross section. So the current density, it is equals to I divided by pi r square equals to Ix divided by pi x square, because they are taking uniform. So Ix can be written as like this: Ix equals to pi x square by pi r square into I. So pi cancel out. So finally get Ix equals to x square divided by r square into I. So suppose if we have 10 millimeter conductor. So 10 millimeter conductor can carry 10 ampere current. So total current I is 10 ampere, and total radius, that is r small r, equals to 10 millimeter. Now you have to find out what will be the current passing through 5 millimeter of that particular conductor from the center. Suppose x is equals to 5 millimeter. So you can easily find out Ix, that is 5 square divided by 10 square into 10. This will be the amount of current Ix. Okay. So in equation 2 and from equation 2 and equation 3, we can write, as you know, Hx equals to Ix divided by 2 pi x. We get it from equation 2. Now instead of Ix, if we put that expression x square divided by r square into I, finally what we get? 1x will cancel out. Finally we get I divided by 2 pi r square into x. So next, flux density. What is flux density? Flux density Bx, it is represented Bx equals to mu into Hx. This is the relation of flux density with magnetic field intensity. You know it from your previous knowledge. Mu is the permeability. Now mu can be written as mu naught into mu r. Mu naught is the permeability for free space, mu r is the relative permeability, and Hx is the magnetic field intensity for x distance. Now, for our convenience, we consider mu r, relative permeability, equals to 0. This is not practically 0, but for our calculation, we will consider it equals to 0. Okay. So then what will happen? Bx, it becomes flux density Bx at distance x is equals to mu naught into Hx. Now, what you have to find out? Inductance. So inductance, that is flux linkage divided by current. So we need the total flux linkages. So how to find out the total flux linkages? So in the next part, put the expression of Hx from equation number 3, I think, from the previous expression, mu naught I divided by 2 pi r square into x. Okay, so this is the expression for Bx. Mu naught is the permeability of this space, that is 4 pi into 10 to the power minus 7 centimeter per meter. In the next part, we are going to discuss about how to calculate the total flux linkages. So let the axial length of the conductor is 1 meter. Suppose small l is taken 1 meter. Okay. So d phi is a small strip. Dx is expressed by d phi equals to flux density into area. How to find out the total flux? That is d phi is the total flux. D phi is the total flux equals to flux density into area. and this is for a small strip, that is dx. Now in this figure you can see a yellow ring portion. You can see the yellow ring portion. So here we are considering only this thickness dx, which is denoted by this. Okay, only this portion dx. We are taking this thickness, and your total length, which is taken small l, is equals to unity, that is 1 meter. If we take it 1 meter, then what will happen? So flux density, that is Vx, and your surface total area, that is equals to dx into length L, that is 1 meter. So dx into 1 meter. And telling that again and again, that is this distance we are considering only a small elemental radial length. Elemental total, I am not taking the total radius r. I am taking a small portion dx. I'm not taking total r, total x. We are taking a small portion dx, some elemental radial distance dx into 1. This will give you the area. So then what will be the flux linkages inside this yellow ring? That is d5. So dx into 1. So the expression is mu naught. Just put the expression of dx, equation number 5, mu naught I divided by 2 pi r square into x into dx. Dx is the area. Dx into 1, it becomes dx. So this will be the flux inside the yellow ring, elemental portion of the conductor. Entire cross-sectional area of the conductor does not enclose total d5. It does not enclose the total d5. So it is some fraction of total d5. Then what will be the fraction? So there will be the flux linkages is denoted by d lambda. D lambda is the actual flux linkages, which is a fraction of total flux linkages, that is d5, denoted by this yellow portion only. It will be pi x square divided by pi r square into d5. So we are considering a small portion. Total ta tomar consider korbe na, karon ami total conductor ke consider korini, but a small portion ke nite hobe. So this equals to mu naught divided by 2 pi into x cube I divided by r to the power 4 into dx. So this will be the total flux linkages. Now the total flux linkages for the conductor for 1 millimeter length or with radius r is given by this expression. So first lambda equals to integration 0 to lambda, limit 0 to lambda d lambda, and then equals to integration limit 0 to r total flux linkages, that is del lambda, the expression of del lambda from previous expression, that is mu naught divided by 2 pi into x cube I divided by r to the power 4 into dx. So if you take the integration, you can easily find out that is mu naught I divided by h pi. Okay. So after integration, this x cube, it is x cube into dx, it becomes x to the power 4. It becomes x to the power 4 divided by 4. So we have this 8 term 8, 2 into 8. Therefore, it is become 8 pi, and the limit is 0 to r. Limit is 0 to r. So actually, it becomes mu naught divided by 8 pi 8 pi into r to the power 4, r to the power 4, r to the power 4 into I. Okay, r to the power 4. Actually, initially it is x to the power 4. Initially it is initially x to the power 4, but we have the limit 0 to r, so it becomes r to the power 4. So initially it is r to the power 4. Here this is not working properly. So now it becomes mu naught h by into I. So in the next part, here the internal inductance is L lambda divided by R, that is mu naught divided by h pi. So this is your total internal inductance. But mu naught, you know that mu naught equals to 4 pi into 10 to the power minus 7. So 4 pi divided by 8 pi, so it becomes half into 10 to the power minus 7 Henry per meter. This is the internal inductance, and you can see it is constant for any value of r. Okay, it will not depend on the cross section total radius r. It is internal inductance is always equal, that is half into 10 to the power minus 7. For practical cases, we cannot consider mu r is equals to 1. So in that case, mu r is not equals to 1 for practical cases. So here we consider L internal equals to half into 10 to the power minus 7 into mu r. So this is the internal inductance. So let's forward the day. In the next class, we're going to discuss about external inductance. Okay. So thank you for this. I'm going to end the lecture.